Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Friday. It means we're brought to you by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp, and fired up. You're here with us working towards the weekend. If you've reached the finish line, fired up for you. If not, we'll get you there here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Got Jacob Beck and Jordan Kitchens back there on the ones and twos, and plenty to do here on this Friday. Of course, got to talk to Preston Guy. He of TigerBait.com. We do that every single Friday at 1:15. Get you ready for the NFL slate to come. Fantasy football playoffs are upon us, so we'll get to some of that. Heisman thoughts. They'll award that trophy coming up tomorrow, New York City. LSU getting some transfer portal additions, potentially. Jaden Daniels going to the Superdome, and LSU and SMU on the hardwood from Dallas. We'll talk with Dean Rolski, who covers SMU 4 on 3. We'll do that an hour and a half from right now. Plus, some take it or leave it and some other things that may happen throughout the show. We'll start the same way we start each and every day, and that is, of course, with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
Big news today from LSU, as they announced via press release, and Brian Kelly spoke about it, is that Brian Kelly and his wife, Pocky, have created a $1 million match. And what that means is, from now until the first week in February, every dollar that LSU receives for Bayou Traditions Football Fund, Brian Kelly and Pocky Kelly will match up to $1 million to LSU athletics. Now, there are a lot of layers to this that are interesting to me. First of all, everyone has always said, in terms of paying college athletes, if one person says there's not enough money to pay all these guys, one of the immediate counters is, look at the coaches' salaries and look at the coaches' buyout. There is money. It needs to be dispersed more evenly. That's generally a cry from those who suggest there is money to pay the college athletes. And I didn't necessarily see a bunch of coaches running to the forefront to accept less money so that their players could make more. That wasn't an immediate reaction to name, image, and likeness becoming legal. And this is not Brian Kelly taking less money, but it is a strategic play on two different fronts. One, it shows his generosity and his commitment to LSU. And this is not new. Brian Kelly and his wife also gave money back in 2022, $1 million, toward the facility that the student athletes use there for performance, nutrition, all that. He donated a handful of times to Notre Dame, including $250,000 in 2010 toward a cancer research arm at Notre Dame. So this is not some brand new thing he's just cooked up to try to get more players. Brian Kelly and his wife, Pocky, have done this in the past. However, in this instance, the money comes with a clear message, and it's one that Brian Kelly has talked about a lot. We'll first hear it from Brian Kelly, and then I'll go further into this donation and kind of the effects of it. This is Brian Kelly from earlier today.
Well, I figured that after my last press conference, where I pretty much challenged the entire LSU fan base that if they wanted to continue to have a championship program, that they needed to understand that there's a financial responsibility as well, that I needed to put my money where my mouth was and be part of that as well. And so that's the genesis of that relative to the $1 million. So my wife and I are going to match up to $1 million. New monies that are donated through NIL that are earmarked for football so we can be competitive in that space. I thought that it should start with me and then continue to work through all the other avenues that are available to us.
It's admirable any way you slice it for Brian Kelly. I know he signed for $100 million. So one is, a tenth of that. No, sorry, 100th of that, a tenth of his annual salary. I get that. But still, it's $1 million that Brian Kelly is putting into the university. And there is a rule from the NCAA that prohibits coaches from directly contributing money to collectives or student athletes. So what Brian Kelly is doing is he says, hey, if you contribute to the student athletes in our collective for our football players, I will help you on the other end with LSU athletics as a whole. Because he's not allowed to go directly to football, but he is allowed to donate his own money to the university's athletic programs. And that's what he's doing. And while it is incredibly generous, and I want to lead with that, it really is, it also sends a message that, hey, we do need your money. And I'm part of this. And in a sense, it is a little bit of a coach cutting his money to help pay on the back end. And it's a challenge in the same way. And I think that LSU fans will hear this. I think those of you who listen to me regularly understand that I very rarely use this term. I would say maybe once a month. Maybe once a month, I say, I had a conversation with someone who would know, and this is what I learned. I say that about once a month. Y'all listen to me. Y'all know that I'm not some sort of insider who's breaking news and has the scoop, and that's just not necessarily where I am at this point in my career as I do this job. That day may come, but it's not today. I have relationships at LSU. I get a paycheck from LSU on football season. Like, I rarely go, inside sources are telling me this. But I did have a conversation this week, and I can tell you that LSU has raised a lot of money for the football program through the collective in the last 30 days. That's not some report I'm reading from somewhere else. That's not someone in the media told me this. That comes from over there, okay? They're doing very, very well with fundraising, but it's got to continue. And that message has to continue to ring true. And if you are Brian Kelly and you know that part of your job is being a fundraiser, and that is part of his job now. Maybe it always was, but more so now. It's very difficult to go to the same people who are helping pay you $100 million over 10 years saying, hey, I need more. Like, thanks for that, but we got to have a left tackle. So where's some more money? It's easier to have that conversation if Brian Kelly goes to that donor and says, hey, you've done very well. I've done very well. I can't help with this on this end, but I can do this, and this is the example that I need y'all to follow if we want to do this together. And that's a conversation that, quite frankly, I'm confident he didn't think he was ever going to have when he got into coaching 35 years ago at Assumption or wherever it was. Like, did you ever think at that point in the 80s that you were going to have to go to a donor and say, I know I make $100 million. You've got a lot too. We have to pay all our players like $8, $9, $10, $20 million in total to keep this team relatively competitive with Georgia and Texas A&M, relatively competitive with Miami and Ohio State, who we think we fancy ourselves as competitive with on the national scale. Like, we have to continue to pay that money. Like, that's a tough conversation to have, but it becomes easier once you show, hey, I'm willing to do this. And I think it's admirable. I think, and look, I'm trying to be as level-headed as I can here. I think there is a pie. There's a pie graph. And when you suggest, why is Brian Kelly giving this $1 million to Tiger Athletics? There's a piece of the pie that's just understanding the financial position he's put himself in through decades of hard work and the obligation or the opportunity, however you want to look at it, to give back. That's obviously there. It was there back 14 years ago when he gave $250,000 to Notre Dame for cancer research. That didn't help him get a wide receiver. There is that element to it. There's an element of I need to motivate the fan base. There's an element of I need to put my money where my mouth is. And there's an element of this is my last chance to win a national championship. This is the only way. And how that pie breaks out, it doesn't really matter. It just is what it is. And again, we're going to find out over the next 2 weeks just how game LSU is. This is a new world for this football program. As of 5 months ago, I'm confident the football program believed we can do this, signing a bunch of 4- and 5-star kids every single December. And at some point, whether that was getting beat on the field, whether that was starting too many freshmen this year, whether that was Bryce Underwood pulling the rug out at the 11th hour, somewhere along the line, they figured out, nope, we got to change the way we're operating. And they're trying to do it a little bit on the fly, and this is part of that. Again, I'm told things are going really well over there. But the proof has to be in the pudding. Because if you have a big war chest of money and it just stays full, it's pretty worthless in this instance. You're not accruing interest over there that's going to be beneficial to anybody. The money has to go into the war chest and come out of the war chest. LSU got a signature from Bauer Sharp today. That's one. And I said this yesterday on my show. I said we will very likely have a commitment in the next 24 hours and certainly through the weekend. And I still feel that way. I don't think Bauer Sharp is the end. I think it's very much the beginning. But you're going to have to see that as these visits happen, as these NIL offers are made, and as you continue to play ball. I think Garrett Nussmeier was part of playing ball. Brian Kelly talked about that today, saying they thought they put a pretty good NIL opportunity in front of him. But you got to keep going. You got Bauer Sharp at tight end. Got to keep going. Looks like you're probably going to get a center. Got to keep going. Looks like you're probably going to get a wide receiver. Got to keep going. Looks like you're probably going to get a cornerback. Got to keep going. And I'm going to talk about all this in the second hour. But I think Brian Kelly today did something very, very admirable. I thought it was creative from LSU's perspective. And the question is, how effective will it be? Will it spur, whether it's very, very wealthy donors or the grassroots effort, hundreds of dollars at a time with thousands of people at a time, to keep filling that war chest up to go get football players? Gone are the days where you as a season ticket holder and you as the booster can sit back and just hope that the team gets some good players. You have to be part of that now. And that's a difficult thing to hear, and some people are against it. It does not change the reality. And I thought Brian Kelly today took a good step for LSU, and I think you're probably, in one way or another, going to see other coaches doing this, whether they copy this model, saying, hey, you give $1 million, I'll give $1 million over here, or theoretically, you could see a day where a coach says, instead of agreeing to take a $7.8 million salary, I'll take 7 straight up, and we'll put that $800,000 in the war chest because I need players and I can't do this without them. That day remains to be seen. Today, we saw Brian Kelly start his way. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.